Hello friends and welcome. Today we're going to talk about the best hard supports in Dota 2 right now. It's not quite a full tier list, but pretty much what I think are the top 5 and a couple honorable mentions. This is based on the pro scene, my pub experience, some data, so it's not perfect. Feel free to disagree. I know the patch is still pretty early, but this is just what I think looks good right now. Real quick, I want to talk about the meta because this pretty much explains all the supports I'm going to mention today. You want people who are good in the laning stage and can play pretty active. We're in a high tempo meta, depending on your MMR. So the lower you go, the less you need to follow the meta. Again, I do believe you can play like any support, but if you want to try to stick to the meta, like this is what's good. High tempo supports, strong in the laning stage, and then can be active. So either you amplify cores that are being active, or you provide some stuns, things like that are good in the early game, good to set up kills, push objectives pretty quickly, that sort of thing. With that out of the way, let's talk about the honorable mentions, which I'm just going to throw all up at once in no particular order. I think these are all great supports, which you could even make a case to put them in the top 5, but for various reasons we might get into later, I didn't, and I put them in honorable mentions instead. Now, just because you don't see your favorite heroes here doesn't mean I think they're bad. They just maybe don't stick out to me. It's a pub game for most of us, so you can play whoever you like, but if you want particularly strong supports, then in my opinion, these are a good place to begin. Now, for the top 5, let's actually start with Chen. I think he's even better than number 5. Not that this is a strict order either, but he is tough to play. In fact, he's not very popular to pick either. But for Chen players, he has been doing very well. So if you've ever wanted to learn Chen, and I have myself, I think this is a good patch for it. I promise I will get to it eventually, guys. It's just been hard. You have to commit a lot of time to learn Chen, so I haven't done it yet. But the reasons he's good right now is because the neutral creeps got reworked. There's a lot of them that are stronger now. So Chen, he's the guy who controls the jungle, right? So you grab your creeps, you win your lane usually, and then you have a very fast pace in the game. Your itemization can flex a little bit, but you typically buy whatever is great for your team. You group up, you start shoving objectives, things like that with your stronger creeps, and that's why he's so good right now. He also got his ult buffed, in my opinion, and so that also helps. Now, for a similar reason, Enchantress is good. We can actually draw a comparison there. She's like Chen light in a way. She functions a little differently. She's probably easier to learn than Chen, but I think because Chen is better at encouraging these team group high activity plays, he's better in my opinion, at least at the pro scene. So maybe in pubs, Enchantress might be better because she scales better. She can, get kind of farmed and be more of a core, and she's a little easier to play as well. So I think either of them are fantastic heroes right now. But if you have like a competitive team, I think you'd want a Chen player. And if you're more of a pub player, then maybe Enchantress is a little easier. Next on this list is Shadow Shaman. So he got his shackles changed a little bit. The damage got nerfed, but it's never really been about the damage on that ability. He now has a heal instead, so as he does damage, he's also healing, and I think that's perfect for what he needs, because when you shackle someone, you get a target on your back, and people are trying to kill you to free whoever you've shackled. So now it's going to be harder to kill you because you're healing. And so you've seen a bit of a change to his skill build in the laning stage. Some people are going Q, E, E, because the second point really gets a big switch in health. You're doing damage while healing yourself. Your carry is also doing damage, so that's been cool. The shard also became faster to buy at 15 minutes, and his shard is pretty solid. He gets more farming potential, more pushing potential, and in your pubs, that is great. When you have cores who aren't pushing, Shadow Shaman is the classic support to recommend that you can do a lot on your own. Now, at a competitive level, I think Shadow Shaman's actually better as a position 4, but again, most of us are pub players. You've got room to be a little greedy. You can still be a true position 5 if you have to. But, if there's room for farm, then Shadow Shaman's going to scale great. He's still good at all the things he was always good at, which is an ult that pushes objectives. So he, I think, just fits a lot of what's good right now. He himself is strong. He enables a good laning stage, and then he has a lot of lockdown and objective taking ultimate for the fast-paced gameplay we're seeing right now. Next on this list is Bane, who has been a top support for quite a while. I'm actually a little bored of him, but he's still good, so what can I do but put him on this list? He fits what is strong right now, which is that he's a great laner. usually through Brain Sap, but Nightmare also allows you to mess with pulls, things like that, in a very safe way. So overall, just a good laner. And then you get into this early game portion where Nightmare is a great setup ability, also a good save, and then you have Fiend's Grip, which is great on its own, but right now, because cores are trying to be active, they're buying BKB pretty early. Not usually first item, but very frequently we're seeing second to third item BKBs. Maybe depending on your pubs, it's probably later than that, but right now that's very popular at a higher level. And it feels really bad for a core to buy BKB to be active, and then Bane just grips you and he's like, ha ha ha, and you can't do anything. And then, like, why did you buy it, right? It feels really bad. But then you don't buy it, and then, like, anyone else can stun you and kill you, and that feels really bad. So Bane is just good at really matching this early game tempo, joining in on these fights, and then gripping critical targets to kill them, and then win the fight from there, get objectives, and so on. Next on this list is Undying, who was originally the highest win rate support for a bit, but it was because there was an oversight on his zombies. They were doing far more damage than intended. That has since been toned down a bit. Though from my understanding, I believe they're still doing more damage than they were last patch, but not far too much, which they were. That might not be true. They might be doing the same damage as last time. But that aside, doesn't really matter, because what matters the most for Undying is that he's just good at the meta right now. Decay has made him a hard counter to many strength offlaners that we're seeing a lot. Shout out to Primal Beast, I'm sure is popular in your pubs. He's good against a lot of them. And then after your laning stage, with Tombstone, Soul Rip, in fact, his ultimate, Decay, actually just all of it, I guess, Undying is good at early game fights. And from those fights, oh, your cores are low, they're scared. No, you heal them, and then they stay. They get to keep fighting. They can play around. So he's just really good right now. He buys the items that are useful, lots of like team aura items for these early fights. And because of that, he has an incredible win rate right now. Great hero to play if you like Undying. And finally, the hero that I think is arguably the best pub support right now is Omni Knight. The main difference from last patch is this Hammer of Purity ability. It solidified his laning stage, which was a little awkward before, where Purification was tough to use without pushing the lane, or the enemy kind of knew what you were trying to do. You're trying to run up to them to heal yourself and hit both you with Purification, so they would avoid you, and it felt very awkward. But Hammer of Purity now lets you cast this from a distance, hit them, slow them, pure damage. First off, that's just useful harass. That's great. But now it gives you a chance to run up and auto-attack them. And if you still want to use Purification, you can. But a more common build is EWW, then your Q, then Max W. Because Heavenly Grace now casts on yourself when you use it on an ally. So you are getting a lot more value out of this ability than you used to. It did get nerfed, so it doesn't provide status resistance. And to be clear, it dispels your ally, but not yourself when you cast it. So you got to be a little careful of that, but overall it's just giving you a bunch of strength and HP regen, both of you in the laning stage when you use it. So his laning stage has just been really solid now. And then guess what? You want to fight a lot? Hey, I provide a bunch of heals. I provide this strong dispel to remove stuns that the enemies are trying to cast on you. He just fits really well. He buys really whatever he needs to be useful. Aether Lens, very common, but some other team aura items at the start, fantastic. Pubs have just always been bad at buying the right counters to this hero, mainly dispels for his ultimate and Heavenly Grace, which he's actually even worse at than he used to be in the past, but it's just pub games. People are bad at buying the counters to those, and so he's always been a great pub hero, and I really recommend him right now. So those are my top 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I swapped the order around because I don't know, this feels right, you know? But anyways, you could make a case to swap some of them. So for example, I think Shadow Demon is actually sleeper good. I'm going to start playing him. Soul Catcher does a bunch of damage to some of the strength heroes that are really popular right now, like Tiny. His ultimate, also very good against these early game cores that you're kind of putting a lot of resources into while everyone else does stuff. I guess that's always been the case, but whatever. He's good against them. And then the new Shard for him allows him to use his ultimate on an ally as a separate spell, so you no longer have to pick your ult on the enemy or your teammates. You can buy the Shard and do both. And that helps to protect and heal your super invested core while damaging the enemy super invested core, and I think that's why he's really good. He, as well as Bane and Shadow Shaman, are also really good partners with Mirana support. He can be very active with Mirana plus any of these guys, or other fours, but Mirana's been very popular as a support for right now, and so I think that's why some of these guys are doing really well. Io pairs well with this early tempo that we've seen a lot. He's just kind of doing Io stuff. Honestly, better than I thought. I thought with some of the changes he'd be a little worse as a support, which he kind of is. He's been matched more with spellcasters, both right clickers, but with some like spell damage mixed in a bit more, rather than just pure right click damage carries that we used to see him with. But when he gets that right match, he is doing very well. Jakiro, great pub hero. You've got the wave clear, you got the early tempos. His numbers are pretty nice. Some of his skills got changed around, so it's a little different than it used to be, but overall I think still fits. Abaddon, I think, fills a very similar role to Omni Knight, where you get past the landing stage. You provide the hard or strong dispel to remove stuns, keep enabling your cores to play very active, and you heal them and you save them when people are trying to burst them down and kill them. Silencer, very good in lower win rate pubs, I think. He has a long cooldown ult, which I think is why he's not so popular at higher MMRs and competitive scenes, but for a support who is pretty strong, they were nerfed than they were in the past, but like Q and E, still very good in early game fights. You scale up, you become very powerful. That is great in pubs. Ogre Magi, decent laning stage, enable your cores. I don't think he's as good as some of these others, but like he's pretty solid. If you like him, it's fine. A Death Prophet, some of you have probably had some questions on this. Why is Death Prophet here? She's really good as an offlaner right now. This is more of a pro scene thing. She's really good as an offlaner or a mid right now because her ultimate allows her to push the tempo of the game really fast, and she's just a decent laner. Even without the ultimate, she's still like overall good. Her shard got better if you want to buy that. But then you want some flex power in drafting at the pro scene, and so you can move her to support, where she is still useful support. She has a silence, she has a decent laning stage. Then her ultimate is still good. You get it a little later. It's not like as fast as mid Death Prophet, but 6 on a support or a mid is equally powerful because the ultimate doesn't scale based on your gold and your items. It simply is what it is. That's why Death Prophet support is doable right now. For your pubs, you might get reported if you pick Death Prophet support, and that's why I didn't want to put it in the top 5. And I also think other supports are better because like she doesn't have a stun or anything like that, and that's usually what's missing in pub games. So some of these other supports I think are a little better. She doesn't have a direct save, which some of these other supports have to help your teammates. So she fits a certain idea of the meta right now at a competitive level, along with that flex draft value, but that is not really as much needed in the pub scene, and that's why she's not up here. And then we already talked about Enchantress earlier. That is it, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. If you think someone else should be up here, leave a comment. If you're interested in playing Omni Knight, I actually talked through a game I played and explained everything I was doing on that guy, so if you're interested in picking him up, you might find that useful. I'll put a link up here, and I'm also going to put out a video in the coming days, a little short guide on him in a way. Not too in-depth, but just give you the basics if you need some help with that. So keep an eye out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.